anything gave you difficulties, or if everything has come together how you wanted it to, or...
Yes, no, yes. So my colleague Janine Marchessault and I were approached by the city to make a proposal for Nuit Blanche. We had worked together on a project in Willowdale that looked at suburbia, 6 abandoned houses. It's called the Leona Drive Project. In thinking about Nuit Blanche, we continued a line of investigation. We were interested in museums. We were interested in how we document and steward patrimony. And we wanted to do something about end times because we were aware, as we still are, that the world is sort of in a complex state of being. So we wanted to stage this museum for the end of the world in a parking garage, not anyone in particular, but just a garage, because they serve simultaneously as places where we park cars, the sort of quintessential representation of personal freedom, these little mechanical, technological devices that allow us to go everywhere. But they also, in the Cold War, served as fallout shelters. So there's an interesting sort of odd hypocrisy and irony around these vehicles that represent technological modernity and the fact that splitting the atom was the quintessential achievement of the modernist scientific project. So parking garages had this wonderful sort of duality. So then we thought, how would we divide the space up? We had a number of artists that we wanted to work with. We looked at lots of studio visits, went to lots of studio visits, and decided to divide it up as museums by department. And we wanted it to be not only an exercise in sort of gloom and doom, because the key in the title is a museum for the end of the world, suggesting that maybe a world will end, but another one will begin. So this installation is as much about reflecting back on things that perhaps should have been done differently and regrets we may have, as well as optimistic propositions and possibilities of a world reborn.
Was it kind of easy to put everything to, not easy, but less complicated to put everything?
That's a great question. Well, you know, a parking garage, even though it's a great sort of facility, isn't the first place you would think about putting art, and you wouldn't necessarily think about it as a museum. So there were no challenges other than negotiating the space and getting to know it, and to think about how it's possible to move lots of people through, and how, like a museum, you start at the door and you go around and you come out. But there's not a lot of personal choice in this museum. You enter, you have to make the pathway, the circuit, and then you exit. So it was really about arranging artists in a way that the narrative for the museum could be best facilitated. We start with a type of grim, dark reflection on corporeality and sentience with Douglas Copeland. We move through Tom Blanchard's piece, which looks at the seed vault in Norway, which is supposed to be the Noah's Ark of future generations. And in his proposition, something tragic happens to it. And you think, oh dear, that's just not what we wanted to happen. Then we come to this installation, The Utopus Fine, which is about nuclear paranoia and survival. Then there goes into the worlds of possibility, metamorphosis, the fact that things can't change, and they do. The piece there, Quasar 2, is this remarkable electronic sentient sensing thing. Dana Claxton's piece, which looks at redemption and the journey to hope. Sarah Beck's piece, which is a series of three-dimensional postcards from the edge, in which, if you know those things where Farmer John and you insert yourself into the heads, you can put yourself into a catastrophe not of your own making and has not affected you in any deleterious way. And then you exit, there's Jeffrey Pugin, and then the last piece back in the physical complex is the loading bay with Ante Lou's piece, which is this satellite of used appliances. He's fetishizing and aestheticizing discard society. And then Josh Bennett's piece, which was shot on the last rolls of Kodachrome color film ever produced. So that's sort of very poignant and powerful. Then you're back up top, Tanya Moreau's piece on ecological catastrophe and the stripping of rainforests and deciduous forests. Then onto the plaza, Christine Davis's piece, World Without Sun, which is about nuclear annihilation, Enola Gay and jellyfish. And then the Nathaniel Death Chorale, which serves the role, as in Greek tragedy, of a chorus. In Greek tragedy, the chorus always sings truth to people who might be surprised and unknowing, and there are clarion voices of truth in the evening. And then you can start the whole loop again. My colleague Janine and I don't necessarily agree, but I think that I like the loop, that we never really stop doing what we're doing, we just start doing it all over again.
Choir actually sings a song about Noah.
Wasn't that fantastic?
Oh yeah, so it completely fits with the whole hope and
Seed vault, Noah, all of these things.